Hello, hello. Are people there? Do they want to learn about Bhutan?
People do want to know about Bhutan.
We're here.
Sorry, I was getting my water. Okay, we are at 4:03, and I think this is a recording, so we're just gonna start. Hello, everyone. Thank you for making the time to come and learn about Embark's trek to Chomolhari Base Camp in Bhutan. I myself just got back from hiking in Bhutan, and I'm in love. It's a really, really special place, special country, special little enclave in the world. So I'm excited to share a little bit with you tonight about our program and kind of get into the details of the Chomolhari Base Camp trek. So I wanted to get us started off with a really pixelated image that I hope that you can just try and figure out what it is. Just kidding, it's a video. Hopefully it will give you some welcoming imagery to get you excited.
Bhutan is one of the few countries in the world that sets limits on how many people can visit. Because of that, it's quieter and thriving in its traditions. And that's exactly what you'll get from day one. The trek itself is 7 days. Accompanied by a guide, you'll head north, deep into the mountains. As you make your way into the Himalayas, you'll walk alongside rivers and valleys, across bridges and narrow trails. The landscape keeps opening up around you into wider and more remote mountainscapes. There's a kind of stillness about moving up steep mountain paths than into these remote corners of the Himalayas. This is a trek that stays with you. Not because it's the hardest thing you've ever done, but because Bhutan itself, with its focus on preserving rich Buddhist culture and ancient traditions, is unlike anywhere else. Ready to experience it yourself? Come explore with us at embarkexplorationco.com.
Okay, just a little overview of what you can expect, although you'll have to go there to actually really experience it. But rolling it back a little bit, kind of high level facts about what it is to trek in Bhutan, starting off with when do we go to Bhutan. It actually has some shorter weather windows. It's got 2 seasons. One is March through June, the other is September and October, and either side of those you either have monsoon or winter time. It is a tighter season than some of our other destinations, but that makes it even more special. It is higher elevation hiking, however, it's non-technical. You don't need an ice axe or harness or anything like that. We do put this on a level of difficulty of about a 4. I'd say personally, maybe a little 4 minus on a scale of 1 to 6. So 1 might be our glamping expedition in New Hampshire. And then a 6 would be a full-on Aconcagua, one of the highest mountains in the world kind of things. So this is a 4. That's because of the fact that we're camping the whole time. It is higher elevation. It's a full 7 days. And so you're more like kind of exposed for a longer period of time. Then moving on, Bhutan does charge a sustainability development fee. What is that? That's basically kind of to be blunt, it's a little extra that Bhutan kind of charges foreign visitors. And the idea is that that goes to support and preserve the local kind of essence and culture and keep things kind of closer to home. What that means as somebody who visits is that you get to experience a pretty intact culture and tradition really authentically without all of the kind of crowding and overcrowding that you might know from maybe some neighboring countries that are starting to become quite known for some pretty crowded pathways. And so it does cost a little extra to visit Bhutan, but what you kind of pay out in the front end, you get back in the back end with a really authentic experience. Getting a little bit lighter than that, the training portion. So this is a pretty intensive 7-day trek over high passes and high elevations. So you do need to make sure to pay attention to your training. On average, people train for about 4 to 6 months to be able to kind of successfully do this without punishing themselves too much while they're actually on the trip. And just finally, there is a possibility with this itinerary. This is kind of what we've been rolling out and having a lot of success with in Bhutan, of running a tandem itinerary for friends and family who might be very, very interested in visiting Bhutan kind of culturally and spiritually, but who aren't really necessarily interested in doing the trek. So we do have an itinerary that we run that's culture-centric in tandem with the climb. So, I could talk just high level about that here in a few slides. So this is the way the trip is put together, where we have a group flight that flies from Bangkok into Paro, which is the capital city. Sits at about 7,400 feet, so not quite as much of a doozy as, you know, the Cusco or Bolivia entry points. But we do need to spend some time acclimatizing. So what we do is we take our first 4 days on the front end and we visit Thimphu, which is an adjacent city, do some cultural things, and then we come back to Paro and we do our Tiger's Nest hike as an acclimatization, and I'll get into that here in a second. After that, we're off to the mountains for our 7-day circuit, getting up to Chomolhari Base Camp at 13,300 feet. We do have our highest point in the trip is Bontelo Pass, which is at 16,000 feet. So we make that whole circuit and we come back to Paro, and that's where we fly out of. Again, it's a group flight back to Bangkok. So 11 nights, 12 days in the country. This is a map of where we're talking about. For those of you who don't know, this is the small kingdom of Bhutan, where you've got Tibet on the north side, Nepal on the west side, India down here, and a little kind of wedge of India actually in between Bhutan and Nepal. So just getting into the culture of what you can kind of expect in terms of the culture of Bhutan. It is a strongly Buddhist culture. It's ingrained in every kind of wedge of life. And when we go from Paro to Thimphu, that's what we're kind of exploring. And as described before, the trek portion goes from Paro to Thimphu and back to Paro. If you are going to run a culture-centric trip in tandem with yours for friends and family, the whole group does this portion together and they do Tiger's Nest together. Then we go off on our trek up here and they venture out into kind of deeper into Bhutan in the eastern part. And then they come back and they meet us in Paro. So just some imagery of what our first kind of section, our first few days looks like, getting acclimatized and learning about local culture. And I included this in here to kind of give you a vibe on how intimately the Buddhist culture is woven into everyone's life. This was just a random farmhouse, somebody's house that we had lunch at one day. And this is their central altar in their farmhouse out in the countryside, just a regular family. So it's very much, you just can't even deny how woven into every part of life it is there. Everyone still is in traditional dress, as you probably have seen from the video and other pictures, they're trying to really preserve that traditional way of life. So here's the traditional dress. This is some schools for learning traditional arts and crafts that you can visit. This is an actual functioning school. It is not any kind of tourist thing. In fact, you're not really even allowed to interact with the students. They're there to be learning. So you can just walk around and look, and then the guide will tell you what's happening. But it's very much a working school. And then the final part of the first section of our trip is the hike up into Tiger's Nest. This is called Tiger's Nest here. It is culture and acclimatization, which how could you couldn't want more out of life, right? So that is a one-day hike out of Pero, and it goes from 8,300 feet at the trailhead to 10,300 feet at the trailhead. Up and back, it is 5.5 miles total, so it's quite a lot of elevation gain in just 2.25 miles. You are going to be visiting when you're up there the Pero Taktsang Monastery, where Guru Rinpoche, I'm forgetting his last name, flew in on some sort of magical tiger back, thousands of years ago, and he deemed that this spot would be the ideal spot for this monastery, which is why they built it here. And you hike up to it through lots of stairs at the very end, which your knees will love you on the way back down. And then once you get up there, I don't have any photos from inside the monastery because they're quite adamant about totally distancing yourself from any kind of outside influence. They actually do physically have a security guard there that makes sure that you don't have any phones or cameras or anything. And it's actually just magical and perfect that way because you're immediately taken into a really spiritually significant environment with monks who are doing blessings and chanting. And as you gear up for your trip, it puts you in really a wonderful mindset. If you hadn't already been kind of de-stressed and leveled out with being in the rest of the part of the country, this is kind of that final nudge into just letting go and being one with nature and culture and spirituality. I personally am not that spiritual of a person, but I couldn't deny the significance of the feeling of being up there. It's really a special experience. We intentionally do it on the front part of the trip for acclimatization, and so that you kind of get that connection before you go off into the mountains. And then you come down and you do, in fact, go off into the mountains the next day. So we come back to Pero, and if we're running the trip with friends and family who aren't coming, they're going to go off the next day on their adventure, and we head up into the mountains. So our trek is 45 miles over 7 days. It is a fully supported expedition. It includes 3 high passes ranging from 14 to 16,000 feet in elevation. And it does include 1 rest day at Chomolhari Base Camp, which once you see the photos, you're like, yeah, of course we're going to spend an extra day here. So this is the trip map where we came into Pero and did cultural things here. And this is where our trek takes place in relation to where we would have just been. And then zooming in, here is the trip map. So we drive from Pero about an hour and a half into the mountains, and this is our trailhead at Shana Camp. And we start, you can see we're going up one valley, and then we're coming down an adjacent valley. All the way up on the front end, we're following a beautiful river. We hit Chomolhari Base Camp at 13,000 feet. That's where we have our layover day. On the layover day, we can decide if we want to hike into the glacier of Chomolhari Mountain. This is Chomolhari Mountain. That's an optional activity. It's super gorgeous. Good leg stretch, way to, but not too industrious for a rest day, because we come back and the next day we have our biggest challenge of the trip. So we're going to come around this valley here, work our way up quite a few thousand feet of elevation, and then we're going to come up to the Bontela Pass at 16,000 feet. And then we come back down and camp in the valley. And that whole day is a 9.5 mile day. So it is the biggest day of the trip, and it's in the kind of final phases of the trip. It's quite perfect, actually. Then the next day we have another high pass, the Takungla Pass, and we camp in between that and our final pass, the Tombula Pass. After the Tombula Pass, we have what is my favorite part of trekking, a really great descent of almost 5,000 feet in almost as many miles. It is a a big downhill. Nothing like Kilimanjaro, though, for people who are here who did Kilimanjaro. We have a big downhill to get all the way back to our starting point, Shauna Camp. And then from there, it's a drive out and one more overnight in Pero where we celebrate, and then have our group departure back to Bangkok. And this is just some imagery. As you can see, this is our starting point, and it's quite rocky, and we're just really deep in the valley. It's almost cloud foresty, lots of vegetation. On the way up, like I mentioned, we follow the Pero River, which is just gorgeous. It's such a great way of moving your way up that valley. And then as we work our way up, we're getting deeper and deeper into the mountains. This is just a random camp where we had the most gorgeous lunch one day, hot lunch every single day on the trail. And this is outside of Chomolhari Base Camp, where these guys are hiking to the base of the glacier. And this is on the way to the base of the glacier. And then this is the next day, coming around and about to do the big high pass. I'm spacing the name of this gorgeous mountain, but it just, you get deeper and deeper and closer to those Himalayas. So that's some imagery for you. In terms of people who may not have done something like this before, what is fully supported camping? I always like to say what it is you get spoiled. We are getting all of your main gear for you and all of the camp gear from camp to camp every day. It's going on a pack animal. All of your meals are prepared for you every single day. We can accommodate vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free. It's not our first rodeo. All of our water is collected and filtered and sterilized for us. And you're just carrying on a day-to-day basis your day pack with your daily stuff in it. Your main bag will carry most of your gear, which will include a sleeping bag, but we provide and carry separate of that your tents and your sleeping pad and the big mess tent and tables and chairs and all of that. You're just having your day pack, and yes, you can keep an extra suitcase back in Pero for when you come back. What's going in my day pack? So you're carrying a day pack about 25 to 35 liters. It's going to have your water, your extra clothing layers for the day, your food and your snacks, and then you're going to have also trekking poles. And this is just some picture of what camp in Bhutan looks like, because camp in every destination that we run looks a little bit different. I personally loved the triangle tents here in Bhutan. These are 3-person, 4-season tents that we only put 2 people in, so it has enough room for all of your gear. And if you would like your own tent, that's no problem at all. We can do that. And then we have all of the camp gear, mess tents, cook tents, all of that good stuff. And this is a herdsman with the pack animals. We use mules to get from point to point with all of our gear. And this is just around camp. This is inside of a tent. This is our wonderful assistant guide making some food for us. And all of the horses and the mules are so beautifully decorated. The people who own the horses are very passionate about the lead horse being nicely decorated, and so we know who the good horse is. Then a few other images, doing some stretches in camp with Chomolhari in the background. And I was trying to get a picture of the mess tent, but all I had was a picture of Ron in his French fry outfit. So sorry, not sorry. There's Ron in his French fry outfit. You can see we've got our camp chairs, tables, all of your silverware and plateware, and all of that stuff is done for you and ready for you when you arrive in camp every single day. Hot drinks in the morning, warm water bottles in the evening. Like I said, little spoiled. Okay, so that's kind of details about camping and expeditions and everything. As far as the trip goes, what can you expect from us? So there are a number of you on this call who've been on a number of trips, have a history with Embark. You know it's not the first time we've done this. We've been doing it for more than 20 years. And through that, we've developed a really comprehensive library of informational and preparatory materials for you. So gear lists, training plans, video tutorials. I just made a really great packing video specifically for Bhutan. All of that is in a group landing site, which you get access to once you commit. We also run at least 2 group check-ins prior to your trip. One is a planning call about 6 months prior to your trip, where we'll go over all the stuff I talked about today, but we'll get like a little bit more detailed. We'll talk about how can you be training, what exactly should you be doing for your packing, medications, health and hygiene, all of that good stuff. Like we'll really get into the details on that call. And then we'll do one call 1 month prior to your trip, which is meant to kind of round things out, make sure that all of the logistics are dialed, we've dotted all of our I's, crossed all of our T's, and most importantly, an opportunity for you to ask any questions that are starting to form in the month prior to your trip, because we want to make sure that you're feeling properly supported for what we recognize is a really big trip. For some of us, it's going to be the trip of a lifetime. And then finally, the thing that we feel really passionate about is that we're super hands-on. For those of you who know us, we're a pretty small operation, very responsive and passionate about making sure that we get back to you in a timely manner, and passionate that you feel properly kind of supported for the trip and feel like you're in good hands. So that is what we offer, and we love doing what we do. Dates and pricing for 2027. So we are running some set departure dates in April and September of 2027. But we also are more than happy to do custom dates for individuals or groups as that becomes available, or as you kind of get people together. And kind of starting point, it is based on how many people are in your party, but a starting point is around 5650 on average for a group, I think, of like 6 people. And then kind of final things to remember, that it is a combination of culture and adventure that you can't find in this way on any other trip that we run. It is really special that way. You do need to train for it. It is a physical endeavor. Unless, of course, you're coming on as a culture add-on where you're just doing the culture-centric stuff. You do need to be able to do a small little 1-hour hike to see some animals in the outback, but other than that, you don't need to be in, peak physical condition. But if you're going on the trek, I always say we're all going to suffer a little on the trip. You can suffer a lot less if you show up in peak physical condition. This trip is a big trip, so you do need to probably spend some time planning. On average, people plan about 9 to 12 months in advance for something like this. And it's a challenge, but it's also a ton of fun. I was just there with a group of 13, and we just couldn't believe how much we bonded in those mountains, how beautiful the mountains were, and how much we learned about the people, culture, and religion of Bhutan. It was really, really amazing. So that is it from me. Actually, I don't think that this slide pertains to the slideshow, so I'm going to skip past it. And that's it. Oh, it does pertain to the slideshow. It's this is just a relaxing day on the trail in Bhutan. When you get to the top of High Pass, this is what you have to look forward to. Okay, and that is buried somewhere in there. I don't know why that's showing up. I'm going to stop sharing, and questions. Joe Fahey, I know you have a question or two. Or maybe he's not. Oh, Jeff has a question.
Hey,
Hi, Jeff.
how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. So when, and also Joel Toff is here. I don't know if you can see Joel, but he was on the Everest Base Camp trip with
Yeah,
us
I remember.
also. So we were just both interested in hearing about this. When does when do you need to, when does a decision need to be made about these trips?
Um, it depends when you're going. Probably sooner than later if it's for 2027. Because what it is we have the best guides in the world and we only use two of them. We don't have a staff of 17 guides that we pick from, and so we have to get on their schedules. They're booking out into like late 2027, but there is like we do have those set departure dates for March and September, and there is a little bit of availability for custom groups at the end of September.
Okay. And the group size can be
It,
the group,
it could
6,
be 4 to 12.
4 to 12.
Mhm.
Okay. And for the non-hiking itinerary, if somebody else was coming to do just the cultural part, the time together would mostly be at the beginning of the trip, and then reconvene later in the trip. And is it usual for people to spend any more time, traveling around after that? Or
Yeah, so what usually happens is people spend a couple days in Bangkok, just kind of, I mean, because it's Bangkok and it's fun and catching up to speed, right? A couple days in Bangkok and then the trip, and then they either go back and do something in Thailand or they go down into India. There's some really cool stuff to do in India. There's a tiger safari in India that's become really popular. So that's generally what they do. By the time everybody gets back to Paro after all of their adventures, they feel like I'm good with Bhutan, but they might want to spend a little bit more time together. So they'll do something else off the back end in Southeast Asia or go down into India.
But in Bhutan, it's the first third and the last 20%, basically.
It's the first 5 day, I think it's 4 days, first 4 days that you're all together, and then that last night in Paro.
But you can extend it and
You can
do
totally extend it, yeah.
The total itinerary is 14 days, is that what it is?
12.
12 days.
Mhm.
So, Carrie, all we need to do is get to Bangkok.
You got to get off of both of those lines. You got to get on in one line. Yes, you have to get to and from Bangkok, and then we book the flights and then bill you for the flights off the back end. So the 5650 is for the land component of Bhutan, and we book that flight for you, but it's an extra part of your bill. It's usually plus or minus $1,000 for the flight from Bangkok to Paro and back.
the trip without the plane fare?
Okay, so is this better now that I'm only on one? I had no
Yes.
sound on my laptop. I guess it's time to retire this laptop. It's still on Windows like 8. So, so we just get to we fly to
Bangkok.
Bangkok, and we can come as early as we want as far as touring around Bangkok on our own, and then we don't have to book the flight, because I was looking on Expedia for flights to Paro and I couldn't find anything. I
Yeah,
kept
you have to book direct through Druk Air or like Air Bhutan or something like. There's only two carriers.
Okay, so we
book
do our
that.
bookings. We do our bookings to Bangkok,
Yeah.
and then you'll take care of the Bangkok to Paro flight, so we're all on the same flight.
Yep.
And then how do we pay for that flight?
That's included as you just pay us for it.
Oh, so that's included in the 5650?
No,
Oh,
it's not included in the 5650, but we have to wait to see what the flight fares are going to be.
Okay.
Because they vary, so it'll be an extra line item on your invoice.
okay, that makes sense then. Yeah, because I think the country hasn't been open to tourism very long, has it?
Well, like Donovan, what would you say?
25 years.
Hmm.
Oh, that's longer than I thought then.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But it's very, I mean, that whole sustainability development fee that I was talking about is a way for them to just limit that access. And, people have different thoughts on what that is. But
And
it does mean that you have, like, what I feel is a more authentic kind of Buddhist, a Bhutan-esque experience.
And what's that fee? Is that $100 a day?
It
Yeah.
is, but it used to be $250 up a day
Yeah,
up
no,
until
that's
like a
worth
year
it. I
ago.
mean, that's pretty cheap. Let me in your country for $100 a day. That's not bad.
The crazy part is it's a domestic carrier that goes from Bangkok to Paro, so the fee can be relatively high for the flight.
Sure, I understand.
There was something. Oh, I wanted to touch on how Jeff, you were also in those two who are on there right now. They were in Everest Base Camp Trek, and Joe Fahey, you've done Everest Base Camp. So has Lauren Reed, who's on here. I don't know about you, Cindy, because I'm just getting to know you. A lot of people come to Bhutan after they've gone to Nepal because they've really loved Nepal. I was recently in Bhutan with a lot of people who had either been to the Everest Base Camp Trek or physically lived in Nepal, and they were hands down that the Bhutan experience just seemed more what they had expected from their Everest Base Camp Trek in terms of just that more kind of mellow, meditative, daily vibe, peaceful, really, really kind of just deep, like deep in the mountains and slow and connected. I had this woman give a testimonial on the trip about how she just went to Everest Base Camp and she can't believe that she went there first, and she just was so glad that she had been to Bhutan because it felt like really authentic to her. Not to belabor the point, but Donovan, can you think of any other touch points that we haven't addressed?
No, I mean, I think you've covered the core of it, and yeah, no, it's a good trip, and we're excited to start. I actually started running. We did this in 2014, and had it going for a few years, and we just brought it back, and we're really happy about it.
We have two of the best guides. This is what we do. We do this well. We've been doing it for years. Our lead guide, Kunzang, also leads, if anybody is familiar and done their homework on it, the Snowman Trek. So that is a huge trek in Bhutan where it's something like a 28-day trek, but the weather window for that trek is only like 32 days. So it's a incredibly arduous trek to run, and it's very, very elite level hiker climber status. And he not only does that and does it well, but he also is just an incredibly personable, wonderful guide in between hiker to guide. He's amazing. And then we have a very rare, super accomplished young female guide named Sonam. It's very uncommon to have a guide like that in Bhutan, in this area of the world, who is a woman. She's super, super passionate and really, really good at what she does. So I'm very, very happy that we get to work with them, but that's part of the reason why we book out kind of far in advance, because we have to get on their schedules.
Carrie,
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, Cindy.
Your camping situation, just tell me a little bit about do you have a toilet tent? Do you supply the sleeping bags, pads, mattresses, and all, whatever? Just tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have a mess tent which everyone eats in, with tables and chairs and dishes and all that stuff, all 3 meals a day, all of your snacks, everything, all that's covered. We have all of the 4-season 3-person tents that we put only 2 people in, so fit all of your gear. And then we do have toilet tents. These are toilets that are pit toilets, so they're dug into the ground and they have a seat that goes over them. It's not a composting toilet, but we supply all of that and do all of that. It's got the little privacy tent that goes over it with toilet paper and hand sanitizer and all of that. We also have a shower tent. So when you get up to Chomolhari Base Camp and you've been hiking for 4 days, and it's rest day and it's nice and sunny out, you can go actually have a nice warm shower. What else? We provide hot lunches on the trail with like a table and chairs and everything that we set up for you. Does that paint a picture, Sandy? Oh, so we do provide thick, like sleeping mats that we carry for you, but everybody needs to bring their own sleeping bag.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Will you be posting the dates and the sign up information on your website?
Yeah, so if you go to our website and click on Bhutan and Chomolhari Base Camp, it'll give you the dates in there.
Is there a big difference in the two windows where you can go? Is there a big difference in the weather?
No, they're in September. We're just coming off of monsoon season, so the rivers might be higher and it might be a little muddier, but other than that, there's not a big difference in those different windows.
How cold is it on the hike? Especially at altitude, I assume quite cold over the passes.
It's probably what you would have experienced from Everest Base Camp, where frosty in the morning as you make your way up. So starting on day 3 of the itinerary, up until day 3, it's pretty temperate. But then you're getting up into the mountains, so it would have been a little frozen at the nighttime, frosty, crisp in the morning. If it's sunny during the day, though, we're at the higher elevations, so then you're having to deal with sunshine and you're quite warm. We did have some weather come in while we were on our trip, and we were walking in, half an inch of snow on that high pass. So we do carry traction devices if we need that. Usually if that happens, it happens overnight, and we're in the season where if you were going to be in the snow, you would just be walking in light snow. If we were to encounter at that 16,000 foot pass some weather, then it would be quite chilly, and we need to have our insulation layer. We'd need to have our heavy shell and our warm hats. But then as you dip down, it warms up. Does that maybe too much?
Yep. Got it. That's what I expected.
It's the Himalayas.
How about cell service, satellite phones?
Yeah. So if you remember the itinerary, the initial part that goes up kind of clockwise, there is intermittent cell service because it's kind of a valley that does get electrical to it. So there is intermittent cell service as you go up that part of it. So for the majority of the trip, don't count on it, but there's intermittent cell service and there is electricity. After we cross that high pass, it's much more remote. So for the last 3 days of the trip, there is not.
Gotcha.
And then when you're in Bhutan, a lot of people get like an eSIM when they arrive because some carriers in the United States will not match up with the Bhutanese cell networks, and it's super easy and straightforward right when you get to the airport.
So you have a satellite phone that you carry. Can you bring your own?
You can bring your own. We do not carry a satellite phone because we can get service through the local networks with our guiding staff. But if you have like a Garmin InReach, I was using that every day. You totally can bring that.
Are there any river crossings, or is it all bridges?
Bridges. But Jeff, if you want a river crossing, you can come with me this July to India. No.
No river crossings.
Okay. Yeah, there's all bridges, and actually, they were all really nice bridges.
Well, this looks like a great trip.
It is. It's all of the things. It's such a good combination of everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for all of your great questions. We will resend out the recording to this if you know anybody who had been interested and couldn't get on the call. But thank you for taking the time, everybody, and feel free. You can email info@embarkexplorationco.com, carrie@embarkexplorationco.com, or you can call us. All right. Thank you, guys. Good to see you guys, Jeff and Joel.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Bye, Cindy. Bye, Joe.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.